Live from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and folks, we are broadcasting from inside Renaissance Bank in beautiful Alpharetta. And if you're looking for a bank that's big enough to handle pretty much any need you can throw at them, but small enough to do it in a personal way, that's the experience I've found at Renaissance Bank with my clients, the ones I work with Renaissance, and it's a great experience. A whole lot better than the mega bank experience. And you know what I mean if you're at one of those banks. So here's the deal. Go to renaissancebank.com and find one of their local offices and give them a call. And I think you'll be glad you did. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And now I want to welcome Danny Vander Maten. Danny is with Cresa.
Good afternoon. Good to be here.
Yeah, great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you here. Let's talk about you and Cresa. How are you serving folks out there?
Well, right now, in every way imaginable, as you can imagine, in our industry, commercial real estate got turned upside down on its head about 3 years ago. I mean, it was going great up until then, and then everything pretty much changed for better, for worse, in every way imaginable.
I think it was turned upside down about 4 or 5 times, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're still trying to find our feet right now.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we know what this is all about. So, obviously, work from home, the office market. But let's talk about Cresa's scope of services, because it really goes more than office, right?
Yes, and thank you for asking that. If we were to explain how we made money, from soup to nuts, you'd say, okay, you guys sound like brokers. And that is a large part of the framework of our process. We broker transactions. But really what we do and how we describe what we do when it relates to real estate is we advise. We advise the consumers that trust us to advocate them. And we, as a firm, globally, we focus on 2 primary sectors of real estate, office and industrial. We can facilitate, to a certain extent, retail, but largely our bailiwick is in office in the industrial market. And when COVID happened, as you just touched on, the office became sort of a mystery for some people. It became a giant question mark. And it was a question mark we were always trying to answer before the pandemic, but it was a different question as soon as 2020 happened.
Right.
And a lot of what we've seen then and since are companies who are feeling their way through the dark, and our job and our role is to help them. We have no singular answer that's going to fit every single company, but what we do have is a process of finding out what that answer is. And so, needless to say, it's been an adventure.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that I find interesting about Cresa is just the right there on your website, it says beyond space.
Yes.
I want you to talk about what that means.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Beyond space. So it's really easy to think about working in real estate as focusing so much on space, what space is, what it does, how space is going to work, and how your business is going to fit into it.
Right.
And what we mean by beyond space is, real estate, you could see it, you could touch it, you can feel it, it's tangible. But what's harder to evaluate and size up is what ultimately matters. And that's the business goal and the organizational objectives. And so when we say we think beyond space, we're not thinking about trying to fit a business into space. We're trying to think about how space fits into the business. And to do that, it starts with a list of obvious questions, but those answers beg for questions that aren't necessarily so obvious. It just depends. And so it's a journey. And so we try to get ourselves out of the routine and out of the identity of being space finders in what we do, and really more problem solvers and more as an adjunct partner,
right,
in the business of the companies that trust us.
Right. And you've got you've got, and it's more than just negotiating a lease too. I mean, what you're talking about is really a strategic view of the business.
Yes.
And fitting and advising on what the implications of that strategic plan for the business that business has, the implications of that on space.
Yeah. And, for us, every company's different. Mm-hmm. Even if they're in the same industry, space can fit a different role, mm-hmm. either culturally or operationally. Even two similar companies in the same exact space, they have different leaders and different ideals for what space is going to be for them. Mm-hmm. So in what we do, we work with the companies first to try to figure out through discovery, what is it we're looking for here?
Right.
You may not have to make a decision, but we're having this conversation because we're curious. What are we curious about? And from there, the journey begins. Hmm.
So one of your uniquenesses, I guess, I don't know, I'm sure I got that word right, but
that's a good word.
Okay.
I like uniquenesses.
Okay.
I'll use that.
Yeah. I think everybody knows what I mean though. Is how you get paid.
How we get paid.
Because you like to talk about that, right?
There is a lot of uniquenesses to how we get paid.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
You like to talk about that, and you like to talk about your, how you limit yourself in terms of who you serve, right?
Exactly.
Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah. And you're leading along the right path.
Okay.
Where we are different from a lot of companies that do what we do. Mm-hmm. Is we only represent what we call and refer to often as occupiers. Mm. And what separates occupiers from owners, from real estate investors, from landlords is occupiers, they need real estate for their business. Real estate's not their business. Mm-hmm. And we focus on occupiers so that we maintain a focus in our strategy as a company and organizationally, but also to keep ourselves independent of any conflict of interest. And that's really the foundation of what our company was built on in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. It was put together, Cresa is the acronym. It stands for Corporate Real Estate Service Advisors. Mm-hmm. And it started with a group of real estate directors who worked for a lot of big companies that you and I both know. Mm-hmm. And they said, we need a firm who has no married or tied interests to the other side of the table for the transactions that we try to negotiate. Because what they often found were I'm working with this firm, but this firm is also working with the landlord. Now, the people that I'm working with in this firm, they're not the same people in that firm that are working for the landlord. But the question was just out there, are we getting the best deal? Are we getting the right advice? And what separated us then and still what separates us now is that we don't have signs on buildings trying to market buildings. Mm-hmm. We're agnostic to the assets themselves so that, as mentioned, we can really focus on the process and the process of serving tenants and companies for their real estate needs. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, largely, so that we never encounter any transaction where we're on both sides. Because the reality of it is, in a standard real estate transaction, you've got a landlord and you've got brokerage. And mm-hmm. you could lump Cresa into the category of a brokerage firm. Now, like I said, we call ourselves advisors. But if we're going to get lumped into that category, there's landlords and there's brokers. And then there's tenants mm-hmm. and occupiers. And the occupiers are the smallest ones at the table.
Right.
And so we said that, we as a firm and as a company, we want to focus ourselves to just helping not necessarily just the smallest person at the table, but the right person at the table that needs the best advice for them, mm-hmm. which is what every tenant's owed.
Sure. And that's unique in the industry, right?
It is fairly unique. Yes.
I mean, and it's one of those things that once you pass over the Rubicon, as the old saying goes, it's hard to go back.
Yeah.
I mean, once you've decided you're going to play both sides, mm-hmm. You really can't go back.
You can't.
And so that kind of explains your corporate philosophy, right? Why you've always stuck to this side of the table representing occupiers.
Our philosophy and very much our culture. And the reality of it is firms and individuals, they don't get into the business of representing both because they're necessarily in it for themselves and they only care about themselves. It just becomes easy to do. It becomes very easy for a landlord's representative to encounter an opportunity to help a tenant.
Mm-hmm.
And that is largely how a lot of the firms that exist and operate in our industry evolved, largely as landlord companies. But we have this segment of our business operations that we formed because it became an available opportunity for us to serve these types of companies.
Mm-hmm.
And, as a firm, I would just say culturally, what's great about what we do is to be a part of Cresa is to buy into that. We're prohibited from ever trying to operate working on both sides of the transactions. And we win in that because, as I mentioned, we focus, but our clients win too. Our best clients appreciate the fact that they don't have to ask themselves that question.
Right.
Am I going to encounter a scenario where there's going to be dual representation? I really like the people I'm working with, but gosh, am I ever going to have to question whether or not they're going to bat for me? They care about me. And that's where we draw the line, and we drew that when we started as a company, and it's still where we exist.
Well, I think what I appreciate what you're saying, Danny, and I think our listeners do as well, is it's not that you're questioning the ethics of your competitors. However, when you're operating on both sides of the table, even if you're representing one, there's always something that's floating in the back of your head, possibly, right? And
yes,
yeah.
And I would never question necessarily the ethics of our competitors
right.
as much as by design, the model of our industry is broken, and we talk about that a lot in commercial real estate representation. But it just becomes something that me as an individual, as that part of the business in the company of one of our competitors, I'm not in control of. And so, what can you do to completely eliminate that and only serve clients?
Mm-hmm.
Only serve clients.
Yeah.
Only serve tenants and occupiers is what I mean to say, to clarify.
Yeah, there you go. The
word client.
Yeah, there you go. Danny Vander Maten is with us, folks. He is with Cresa, the Atlanta office of Cresa. So, Danny, last time you were here, I guess we were right in the middle of a pandemic. We didn't get to sit across the table from each other. No. We had to do this virtually.
We've come a long ways.
We've come.
And so have you, by the way.
Thankfully.
Thank you for pronouncing my last name right. I know that's a challenge for you sometimes. Thank you.
Danny's giving me a hard time because what we talked about before we came on the air, about my predilections to mispronounce things sometimes. But people forgive me. So I'm grateful.
Vander Maten's not an easy one. No, it's if only we all could have 3-letter last names like Ray. Well, we wouldn't mispronounce last names.
That's my whole point. That's what do you expect from a guy named Ray, right? He has no capability to pronounce anything more than one syllable. But anyway, now I want to get to your practice. And when you were here last time, you were talking about the work you do primarily in the North Fulton corridor, and but not just office, but industrial and other type of commercial spaces. So, Is that still the case? North Fulton is really your bread and butter?
North Fulton is my backyard. It's a market I know very well. Just living and being involved in the community here, whether it's through the Greater North Fulton Chamber or the sports and the programs that my kids are now part of and play in. And being a professional real estate advisor, it just becomes easy to really focus and hone in on the activity of your near geographic area. That being said, not limited to that, not even limited to Atlanta, even a lot since we've last spoken. A lot of the companies that we serve, the occupiers that we serve, they have needs that don't just necessarily revolve around Metro Atlanta. And so, to that point, finding myself in a lot of different markets right now doing work, and being able to do that allows me to work with the other advisors in our firm in those markets: Houston, Austin, San Diego, Los Angeles, and you name it. But you're right to remember that North Fulton largely it's an area that I've just really known to grow and love, and in doing that I'm extremely familiar with what's going on in the area, what tenants are moving in, and what tenants are thinking about moving out, and what occupiers are looking at the area but aren't really sure. There's always been a lot going on in this area since I've gotten into this business, and that's no different than it was now 3 years ago, except the industry is just a little different.
If I recall correctly, I should have looked this up, but I think the show that we did was in late 2020, early 21. We're still kind of,
that's a foggy year. It's tough to remember exactly.
We were all in a fog.
I don't know
right?
if seasons existed in 2020.
That's true, because we were all inside. We didn't know what was going on. But at that time, it was a real uncertainty. I mean, everybody was in uncertainty on like where they were going, and now here we are 2 years later. What does it look like in North Fulton, and how has the market kind of settled down, or has it settled down?
North Fulton has seen a lot of what a lot of other markets in Atlanta and around the country have seen, and that is a flight to quality. And in the world of the office market, what we mean by quality is those buildings that are amenitized to a higher degree than others. Take Avalon, for example. Avalon has no shortage of interest as an office market, or as an office asset. It offers a lot more than what a lot of your typical North Fulton 5 to 6 story mid-rise building can offer. And in seeing that, you've seen the good assets and the assets that are amenitized beyond a certain degree do really well and continue to do extremely well. It's a desirable area, and if office is what you need, there are a lot of great buildings to choose from. Now, those buildings are fairly well occupied, and the demand is a little bit more competitive. Where North Fulton's changed a lot in the last 3 years is in those 5 to 6 story buildings that we all know that aren't discernible one from the next, except maybe one's on the east side of 400 versus one being on the west. Those depending on who's in those buildings, the landlords and the buildings are hungry for opportunity, and that to say as succinctly as possible is to say that it's a tenant's market largely in North Fulton along the 400 corridor. There are deals and opportunities to be had. But to say that would need to be qualified for those types of assets and buildings that are, like I said, aren't necessarily identifiable one from the other, or they just don't happen to have the large Fortune 500 tenant that's still paying rent for the next 10 years.
One of the things that I think is interesting about you, Danny, is I see you every time there's you and I are active together in the Greater North Fulton Chamber. Every time there's some sort of event that revolves around, the economic development, what's going on, you're there. You're always there.
Yeah.
Which says a lot about the work that you do for clients before they even hire you. Right? Yeah. I mean, you're doing the homework before they ever hire you. So talk about that work that you do and how you're backed up by a national firm that does a whole lot of research in all these different real estate types, right? Right.
No, that's a great question. So, I learned getting into this business, knowing the market is imperative to really be taken seriously and to be trusted. If you're going to hire somebody to make a $5-6 million move for you, you want to know that, I've walked in that parking lot before, or I knew that this development that I thought was going to be built here just got rejected. Being in the market's imperative to having the authority that you need to guide occupiers and advocate on their best behalf. But the other part of knowing the market that wasn't explained to me, but it's very true and you could appreciate is that in knowing the market, you know where the opportunities are. You know what tenants are going to do before they've even announced that they're going to do it. And whether it's being present at Greater North Fulton Chamber functions or other functions by organizations like Roswell Inc. in the area, it's beneficial, and it helps me personally, but beyond that, more importantly, it helps the companies that hire us and trust us.
Yeah. And you alluded to this earlier, but for those that have like they're a business in multiple states, you can help them. I mean, because you've got offices all over the country and beyond.
Right.
Right. So,
and that is to say, we, as a firm, we have to be able to help them.
Sure.
You know, I mean, if we just pigeonholed ourselves here in the city of Atlanta, what good would we be for the companies that we want to trust us and to appreciate the level of services that we provide? So we don't just necessarily take on those obligations. We actually seek them out. A multi-location occupier is really where we can maximize the best of our platform.
Right. Right. Danny Vander Maten is with us, folks, with the Atlanta office of Cresa. Cresa.com is where you can go find out more information. Well, Danny, you're here to not only talk about your great work, but to make an announcement. So let's unveil this new baby that you're about to launch on the world.
Well, we are going to get into podcasting.
Yeah,
John, we're going to begin a new podcast show, and we're very excited about it. We've spent a good bit of time thinking about it and what it is that we want to conquer and achieve, and trying to evaluate how we can align our goals with the podcast to continue to help the clients that we help. And beginning next month, we're going to begin a regular monthly podcast show. And it will be called Executive Perspective.
Terrific. And this show will be right here on Business RadioX, folks, and we'll give you directions on how to find it shortly. But talk about the type of guests that you'll have on the show. And I love the name, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great name.
Yeah.
Put a lot of good thought into that name.
I know. We're going to shout out Noah about that.
Noah Young. Yeah. Kudos to you, sir.
Yeah, kudos to Noah.
So on this show, we form a lot of relationships in the course of our business to foster opportunities for ourselves, but also, to serve the companies that hire us the best. And what we want to achieve on the show is to provide the clients and the companies who aren't necessarily clients, but give those leaders and those decision makers at those executive levels an opportunity to share relevant and interesting information. And some of that includes profiling them as individuals. And a lot of that includes some of their best guesses and forecasts of what's relevant in their industries, what they see taking place now, what they saw 3 years ago when the world turned upside down and how they processed it and have moved themselves forward, and what they see for themselves in the future. And what we intend to do is to really give those individuals an opportunity to sit across from me, just like I am you, and really open up and share. Because if there's one thing that we've learned in our business ever since our company started way back in the early 90s, it's that these leaders and individuals just see a lot and they accumulate a lot, but a lot of times they're untouchable, even sometimes to their own workforce, right, wrong, or indifferent, or not even in any reality at all. And whether it's just general business advice or even sharing relevant experiences that might help individuals who'd want to listen to the show, we believed it'd be a great show and a great theme for us because of the opportunity that we get to work with those types of leaders, but also to continue to give them an opportunity to thrive as a business. Because what we do believe is that a business is really only as good as its leaders, and it's only as profound and impactful as the leaders of the organizations that make those decisions.
And folks, I'm not going to give away the store here, but I've had a sneak peek at some of the guests, and there are going to be some great guests on this show, and it's going to be very informative, lots of fun, and I'm excited for you and for those guests, and particularly for our listeners. They're going to enjoy this show.
We are super excited. Yeah. We can't be more excited.
Yeah. So Executive Perspective is the show, folks, and you will find it on all the major podcast apps. If you're listening to this show in April sometime, well, go to your favorite podcast app because we're already out with that show. So go check it out, Executive Perspective on your favorite podcast app. You'll use those keywords and you will find the show. Danny, great work.
Hey, John, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for having us out here today and giving us a chance to announce that. And love everything that you do with this studio.
Thank
and
you.
with the other people that come into the studio, and also, of course, for North Fulton.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and it's looking forward to what we've got ahead. We've got some great work to do together.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Danny Vander Maten, folks, with Cresa. Danny, before we let you go, though, contact information, folks that would like to be in touch with you and learn more about your services, how can they do that?
My email address is pretty long because, as we've already established, my last name is an eternity. But if you want to get a pencil out, you can write down DVANDERMATEN@CRESA.com or shoot me a note on LinkedIn. And my phone number is 404-989-6618.
Terrific. And we'll have all Danny's contact information in the show notes, places to connect with him, including LinkedIn. So we'll have all that in the show notes. So if you're driving, don't worry about writing all that down.
Please don't write it down.
That's right. Danny,
hands on the wheel.
Yeah. Danny Vander Maten, folks, with Cresa. Danny, thanks again.
Thank you, John.
Hey, folks, just a quick reminder. If you have a big problem in your back office with your business, if you've got administrative tasks you're spending way too much time on instead of working with clients, if you're back in the back office working with your bookkeeping instead of working with clients and making sales, you might need to call Office Angels. They've got a whole team of angels that will fly in and take care of those back office issues so you can spend time on the front part of your business where all the revenue happens. So give S.E. Escobedo a call, 770-442-9246. Or if you're shy, go to officeangels.us to learn more. But I would encourage you to call Essie. Tell her we sent you, and I think you'll be glad you did. I use their services, and they're terrific. They do great work. And folks, North Fulton Business Radio, we are coming up on celebrating our 7th anniversary in North Fulton, and we are excited about that. We're excited about having passed 600 episodes a few months ago, and we've only gotten that far because of your great support. So if you have found something here that makes you want to do what you have always done, which is share the show, we greatly appreciate you doing that. So if you know of somebody that needs to hear about Danny and his work, please share the show and continue to do that for all our great business leaders that we welcome here to North Fulton Business Radio. You can find the show on your favorite podcast app. North Fulton Business Radio is the search term, and we will continue to be the voice of business in this market, celebrating business leaders and the great work they do. So for my guest, Danny Vander Maten, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.